sheets. 1 second. Hey, I'm recording. Okay. So we're already off to a pretty miserable start. I launched the wrong stream to start off. I looked at early look MLB, and I apologize for that. I'll give people a few minutes to get in here. Definitely not a great start to the season, but this is what happens when you leave it to me to do it by myself. And you don't have Bobby with me. So let me just put one little note out to everybody that that we fired up here. Let's see. Hold on. Now. Yeah, sorry about that. So, all right, this is probably what the schedule is going to look like for the NFL. I think that Wednesday at 1 o'clock, like around this time, it's probably a good time to preview the main slate for the weekend. Then we're going to have showdown content headed up by Brandon Cruz, I believe. He's going to do a really, really good job with that. And I'm not sure what form that's going to take. He's probably going to do a preview, and then as we get closer to lock, depending on the rest of the sports that night, we'll probably do more of a lineup build later. I think that's probably the best way to do it. And then on Sunday, we're going to do a live thing, probably like 11 o'clock in the morning, where we go over last looks and previews and lineup builds and things like that. So that's probably what going to be the format. And again, the amount of times you're going to have me doing the early look is 0. Probably this one, sorry. And again, I'm probably the worst, the worst single person to do this. But listen, Bobby will be back soon, next week, I hope. But what I'm going to do is at least I'm going to go through the projections, go over kind of who looks good, give my first thoughts on, what type of stacks I might want to play, things like that. But I'm going to be very curious to see what this season looks like. Is there going to be a lot of, purity with a lot of, double stacks with run backs being played? Is any other types of lineups going to show up due to the new sims and things like that? I'm not sure. What type of ownership are we going to see this year of the highest owned players? Like Christian McCaffrey is what is he going to be, 40? Or is he going to be 70? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how that's going to play out. SaberSim has him projected at 30% ownership. Maybe it can be 50. We're going to see. We're going to see how the sims just kind of play that out. Okay, let's go ahead and pull up my projections first. How about that? And we'll take a look at this. And we're going to sort everything by, well, let's sort by Sheets value score, which is basically a combination of points per dollar and raw fantasy points. It's just kind of my own formula to kind of, turn this into one number, sort of. One thing you'll see, by the way, if you subscribe to TrueDFS and get access to these projections, is when you sort by Sheets value score, it's almost always the quarterbacks that are going to have the highest value score. And that's fine, because you know what? There's very little difference between these quarterbacks, honestly. To be able to say that one quarterback is like that much better than another one, even if for value in the value metrics, is not really sharp. You could probably, it's almost like, how do I describe this? I don't know, but it's very rare that a quarterback is going to be a complete standout. It's always a quarterback as a function of what his receivers look like as far as values go. So taking a look at this again, when you look at it by Sheets value score, you do have Jaden Daniels at the top of the list. So I guess like in cash games or whatever, and low risk contests, where you don't have to stack and anything like that, I guess if you could afford to get to Jaden Daniels, he's probably the best play. Okay. But in GPPs, it's not just about the quarterback, it's how he rolls with everything else. But you'll see that Jaden Daniels looks really good. Joe Burrow looks really good. And then what you have are these cheapos. These are three of the cheapos that are going to dominate the discussion, I think. And that's Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Jones, and Drake May. But again, it sort of depends on what their receivers look like along with them. With the exception maybe of Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones is more of a running quarterback, so he can put up the numbers regardless of what his receivers look like. I mean, not all of the numbers, but at least a decent amount of the numbers. So I think that if I had to prioritize here, quarterbacks, just looking at projections, I imagine that Burrow is going to have better hookups, with Higgins and Jamar Chase than Jaden Daniels. But Jaden Daniels has some rushing upside as well. So they're probably about the same. And as far as these other guys, I do think Daniel Jones is probably the best of these three, just because, again, he does have that rushing upside. And then you'll see, as far as running backs are concerned, you have Christian McCaffrey, 7,300, pretty cheap for him, honestly, like if you're going to get the full run out of Christian McCaffrey. So that's pretty obvious. And you see projected ownership at 30%. So it's not like you're doing anything particularly offbeat by playing Christian McCaffrey. And the next guy I have listed here, as far as at least running backs go, is Devon Achane. And then you have, I guess, not even that big of a drop. You know what? Let's now start sorting these actually by position. So let's look at the running backs, and we'll take a look. Running back. So as I mentioned, Devon Achane, probably the best of the running backs under McCaffrey, right? And then Chase Brown for Cincinnati. Now, the reason why I think about this is, okay, we've already seen Joe Burrow as a very well-projected quarterback, so you already see kind of a stack sort of developing here. So if you could play him with Chase Brown, maybe coming out of the backfield, along with another receiver, and we'll get to that later, it's probably going to be a very obvious type of stack here. And then next group of running backs on the list are James Conner from Arizona, Bijan Robinson from Atlanta, Bucky Irving from Tampa, like all these guys, Kamara, Taylor, Josh Jacobs, they all project pretty well. And I guess, from an ownership perspective, Conner is a little bit chalky, relative to his projection. So maybe somebody like Bijan Robinson or Irving or Kamara might be a little bit better. Again, that's the way I kind of look at it by hand. We're going to actually build them with SaberSim, so who cares what I think? But when you just look at the projections here, I think this is, a decent conclusion you could draw is that Conner is probably a weaker play because of his ownership, okay? Or projected ownership. Let's go up to wide receivers. And again, we're sorting my sheet's value score, but we'll do point per dollar in a minute. Jamar Chase, as I mentioned, kind of stands out. So I mean, already you see what's going on here. If you were gonna, start a look what you can do here with SaberSim. Click anywhere in here to create your own lineup. That's pretty cool. And now you can do that. So let's just see what that looks like. So let's just start with Burrow, Chase Brown. Okay, so like for example, we already have like the best quarterback projection, the best wide receiver projection, and one of the top running back projections all on the same team. I mean, how bad can that be, right? Then you have a whole bunch of guys, all within like a point of each other. Puka Nacua. These are all names we remember. Drake London, Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, all these guys. And then here you go. Now you have T. Higgins, who's actually the 7th rated, at least on my metrics, wide receiver. So, I mean, if you wanted to put in Chase Higgins over here, maybe we could afford him. Who knows? And then when you go down the list a little bit, you get to the first couple of guys you might not have heard of, who are kind of really, really good values this week, and that's Tetiora McMillan and Emeka Egbuka from Carolina and Tampa. They're getting 15, 17% ownership. These are the rookies that You know, if things work out, can end up being 6, 7K by week 5. So now, you know, you're probably doing well picking one of these two. But again, they're going to be really, really highly owned. So just to even save money in this kind of like mythical lineup we're building here, you probably want to play one of these dudes. So you want to just play the least expensive one. Let's just put it in and see what it looks like. Let's put in the Igabuka. No, play Cincinnati. Just play, yeah, we'll put him in there. We have to save money eventually, right? With only $43.50 left on the table. Okay. Let's take a look at tight ends. And we'll get to some more cheapos in a minute. Let's look at tight end for a minute. Trey McBride, remember him? Looks good. Then Brock Bowers, super stud from last year. He's back with a big projection. George Kittle, back with a big projection. And then the next guy I really want to deal with here is David Njoku, right? And one of the reasons why is, okay, he projects pretty well, but he's in that same Cincinnati game, you know? So if you wanted to play like a run back in that game, it's like really, really easy to just do this and play Njoku. So again, maybe we can even afford this, and that'll be the end of the discussion. We can build our lineup live right here, and that'll be the end. But what you're seeing here is the reality of week 1. Like week 1, you're getting like some really, really soft pricing, and you can pretty much play, I won't say whatever you want, but you can definitely play, you know, very logical stacks and logical things without even getting too crazy, you know? So what other tight ends here before we get into defenses? And then after that, we'll go and we'll look at, we'll do all this by point per dollar as well, because we're probably going to need to have some cheapos also. So let's see, what else tight end? Tucker Kraft, 4K. It's pretty good. Tyler Warren, I don't know who he is, but he looks pretty good. Brenton Strange, I remember him from last year. Again, we gotta remember all these guys that we used to play. They're all back. Let's take a look at the defenses. And again, defenses is probably the most variant of all the positions, but let's just see like who the cheapest guys in here are. So you have Houston at 2,500. Looks to be very, very strong. Like the top ones are the Broncos and the Steelers, but again, to save money, somebody like Houston probably makes a lot of sense here. So just for purposes of building something, we'll put in Houston. I mean, just to see, it's been a while, but pricing is so soft that you can do this so easily and have 5,100 left per position. Now again, is this 100% pure? I mean, actually, I don't know. I mean, what's bad about this? You know, you have all the skill guys from the Bengals. You got a good value run back from the Browns. You got one of the best values at defense, and you got one of the cheapos at wide receiver. I mean, this is certainly logical. I'm afraid this is too chalky now that I'm doing this. But, yeah. So let's go back through the projections again and see if we sort by point per dollar how things look differently. The way projections work, at least the way I rate them, is there's 3 ways to sort. One is by straight fantasy points, which doesn't, I mean, that's obviously important, but you know, it's not particularly useful. The 2 real main ways are by sheets value scored point per dollar, and point per dollar usually gives a little bit of advantage to the cheapos there. So what you're really looking for, and again, I've had this discussion before, when you're sorting through my projections is when you sort by sheets value score to find the cheapest guys with a high value score, okay? Because sheets value score does reward raw fantasy points a pretty decent amount. I mean, on the other hand, point per dollar as it necessarily favors cheapos. What you want to find is actually the more expensive guys that rate well as far as points per dollar. So when we go back and let's look at again by position, by points per dollar. Defenses, again, Houston still looks the best, and they're 2,500. You know, that's pretty good. So they're high. I mean, they're higher than some of these other point per dollar plays, but beneath them. And then at quarterback, this is again why Jaden Daniels is a very, very strong play. You know, he's good point per dollar and he's good Sheets value scorer. As are Daniel Jones, Trevor Lawrence. We talked about that. Let's look at some of these running backs and see if any cheaper ones kind of show up here. I mean, not really. I mean, because we do have to play another one. So Jaylen Warren probably is decent. And then what else? Kenneth Walker. And there's not a lot of great point per dollar running backs except for the guys we've already talked about. But again, at 5,100, a player left, and we could certainly play Jaylen Warren and get away with it. Let's go back up to wide receiver, I suppose. Let's see what that. Well, start with tight end. Again, David Njoku again, Tucker Kraft again, Trey McBride, same types of guys. Well, wide receivers. So we had Egbuka, and then we talked about, well, we mentioned Tetiora McMillan, Calvin Ridley from Tennessee at only 5K. I mean, I can't really fill this in for you, but it doesn't take a genius to figure out how you can do this, you know? This exercise has confirmed what I suspected, that pricing is just as soft as you can imagine. Okay. So like, let's say you didn't even want to play Chase Brown and you want to get rid of him. And let's say you even wanted to go up to McCaffrey. I mean, even if at $4,750 a person, you can almost do this. I mean, you can't exactly do this, but you can almost do this. You'd have to really go down deep into the 4Ks for your flex. And there's just too many good plays at 5,100 to have to do this. But again, you could start with different stacks. Like I went with Burrow, Chase, Higgins, and then Njoku. You could use, I mean, Daniel Jones with his guys, and then afford McCaffrey like pretty easily, for example. All right, just for fun, you want to build something? All right, just for the hell of it, this is what we're going to do. We are going to up this again. These are my initial projections. I'm going to put them in here. And this is going to be officially the first SaberSim builds of the season. Okay, I'm going to put them all in here. We're not going to put any rules, nothing. Let's just see what we come up with. 20,000 lineups. And then we'll see what we get in our pool. We'll rank by the top 150. And we'll see what we get. This will be the first attempt. And I guess be getting a bunch of what I said, right? Who knows? I guess we'll be getting a lot of those two cheap wide receivers, the Ibuki and the Tiara, whatever his name is. And I do think that I mean, I'd have to imagine people are going to do what I did, right? You can get these Bengals guys cheap. I mean, you can get these Bengals guys with Njoku. I mean, I presume that's what people are going to do. Now, the other thing you have to be aware of is week one is pretty variant, you know, with some of these guys. You know, it's very likely it's someone you've never even heard of is going to just break the slate. But I mean, listen, you can't wait till week 9 to start playing, right? You gotta take your shots. Denver, Tennessee. I mean, I don't want to play that game. I'm just looking at these games that I might want to stack. Houston, LA, not really. Detroit, Green Bay. I mean, that's a 49-point spread. I didn't even see that one. Why not? I wonder if Detroit comes out firing like they did last year, or do they just do stuff differently? So let's see. I guess we're using the flagship as our contest field. Let's see what we would end up getting, and this is out of 150 lineups, just for fun. Well, for quarterback, we would be getting, wow, Daniel Jones, top overall quarterback. Where my Burrow be 10%? How about running back? Running back, Kamara, very interesting. So we'd be getting 28% Kamara first run, 23% A-Chain, not too much McCaffrey. Oh, but then again, they might include in the flex. Wide receiver, Buka, as I mentioned, and McMillan, I mentioned him. Tight end, Njoku, top owned, I mentioned this. And then, you get these guys again in the flex. So, like, for example, if you go into all, that's probably better. Yeah, so 33% McCaffrey. Boy, this Kamara play seems really fishy, I have to say. Ibuka, McMillan down here. I'm curious to see. Well, let's look at defenses first. Saints. Okay. Where'd my Oilers go? Not Oilers. Texans. Only 5% Texans. Okay. What about the team stacks? Like, what kind of stacks would we be getting here? Indianapolis #1. But what about what types of stacks are we getting? Okay, so of the top 150. The majority, 30% are just QB +1 with no run back. And I find that interesting. I do. And then QB +2 and only, you have 10% and only 10% of the pure, QB +2 with the one run back. So that it seems to be that's what the Sims are starting us off with this year. Is this idea that it's not that important to have the run backs. Like 60% of my lineups have no run back. So that is something very interesting. Let's see, it's contests. Select contests. I don't have any entries. So I guess that's the first run of this. When Bobby comes, he can give us some of his substantive takes. Maybe he can, improve upon what I just talked about. I'm sure he can. Rhodey's going to be in the Discord talking about that. Let me take a quick look at FanDuel just to see what it would look like here. Oh, you know what? Let me take a look at my stack page here just for the hell of it. So this is available for TrueDFS members too, and this actually lists what my favorite stacks are, given some of the numbers that I talked about. And as I mentioned, Cincinnati ranks #1 over here as far as modified stack score is concerned, followed by Tampa, Washington. Tampa's got that cheapo. Washington's got the good quarterback. And then Jacksonville we talked about. And then even in, let's see, in value, in pure value, you actually have Cleveland #1 and then Cincinnati. So it looks as though this Cincinnati-Cleveland game is going to be, a very popular, I would imagine, very popular game-to-game stack, and it looks like for good reason, All right, let me look at FanDuel real quick and see if there's any difference. Not really. Cincinnati, Tampa, Washington, same thing. And then point per dollar, Cincinnati, Tampa, San Francisco's a little bit better over there. Take a look at the FanDuel projections. Looks the same to me. McDaniel, Daniels, Burrow. Yeah, you're right. I just don't see that big of a difference. McCaffrey, Chase Brown. Ashton Giante, a little bit better on FanDuel, I guess. It's one thing I will say. And just for fun, we want to build a FanDuel build. May as well. So I already put my 150 in the $5 over there. So we're actually going to see what that looks like simming against my actual lineups here. Take a look. Okay. And we'll just let it fly. Okay. And again, I'm going to do a little bit more of this when we actually build lineups on Sunday. But again, it's I don't really make a lot of changes. I mean, I everything I do really is based on making sure the projections are the way I want, and then I let Saberson kind of run. I don't really do a lot of changes with the Saberson settings. It's just the way I roll. Let's just see what we get here. This is ranked by projected score. I don't know why that would be the case. I presume it's going to rank by ROI once this finishes. Let's see what happens when this is done. I'm sure that once this runs the sim here, it looks like it's not fully kicked in yet. Maybe the Saberson is not fully kicked in yet. I'll take a look and see. Oh, here it is. Run. Oh, right by ROI. There it is. Okay. It's diversifying, and they'll see what we get. So, players, quarterbacks, Burrow, Daniels, Trevor Lawrence, and here, Chase Brown. Ooh, the Ashton Giante, as I mentioned, look better on FanDuel. Travion Henderson, literally have no idea who that is. 17% there. Wide receiver, Chase, Higgins, McBride, the usual suspects. I mean, honestly. McCaffrey, Kyron Williams, defense. Colts actually look like the top over there as far as team stacks go. Cincinnati. Now, again, life is not so easy. I'm sure this is not winning, but looks like FanDuel and DraftKings are lining up for my projections to play Cincinnati. I don't know what to tell you. We'll see what happens between now and Sunday. I'm sure a lot. And that's going to do it. Good luck, everybody. We'll be back for MLB a little bit later, and that's it. Good luck.